Well, it seems like every day or every other day, Asmongold releases a new video where some WoW dev or WoW employee talks some shit about him on social media or about the community, and then he gets to respond. So, as long as this keeps going, I'm going to keep making videos of Asmongold versus Blizzard. Let's see what happens in this one.
Did you see the WoW devs bashing people on Twitter for making complaints about the game? No, I haven't seen that. Anyway, 20th Century Union organizers died to give me a weekend, so I'm limiting replies on this. Quote, retweet my inability to reply, I will block you. No hate towards you. What's this here? WoW lead and counter designer. The moment I run into fire X person on the team and any comment or feedback, it instantly goes into trash regardless of what else there is. Zero tolerance policy for people who suggest that my teammates should lose their jobs. I mean, if you fired all systems designers in our game specifically, you wouldn't get any more items ever. Well, if that means we don't have another set of fucking shards of domination, that'd be a good thing. You know, like, I mean, that's what people want. So these kinds of things, like, I don't know what's wrong with these people. I really don't. And sorry to make fucking items. Yeah, it's like nobody else could ever do this.
Yeah, what does he think that? Does this guy think that if we fired everyone on their team, that nobody could replace them at all? I'm confused because if I'm not mistaken, Asmongold's claim from the previous videos was that we should just replace these people on the systems team because they seem to not be able to do their job. Or I think what he said is, like, in any other job or any other industry or any other company, they would have been fired by now. So it's not like this guy isn't. We're not saying abolish the systems designer team. We're saying replace the system designers on the team. But I do kind of feel for that guy who commented above saying, like, I have a zero tolerance for anybody saying they should lose. I have zero tolerance for anyone saying that any of my teammates should lose their job. Of course, maybe calling out specific people to lose their job is a little bit much. But when you look at the game and you can objectively say that there are problems here and there are problems here and there are problems here and they've had problems for multiple expansions, and you haven't listened to the community, and then eventually you do listen to the community and it turns out they were right the whole time, it's like, it seems like most of the community could do your job better. Either you're bad at your job or there's some other kind of motive that's behind the scenes here, which some people have suggested that I think even Asmongold has said this before, where it's like, wow, they create a problem so that they can fix it later on because then it makes them look good in the eyes of, like, the community. And I don't know if that's the case or not. Sometimes it might seem like that. I don't know. I don't know. It's too hard to make, like, a judgment call like that. But it does seem that that's the case, or these people are incompetent. So when you're saying that this team needs to be reassessed or restaffed, we're not saying abolish the team. I don't think anybody is saying that we don't need a systems design team. Of course, otherwise there would be no systems designed for the game. We're not saying that we want no systems. We're saying we want good ones. And we're saying that we want them to listen to the community when there's feedback. So either these people completely misunderstand, or they're trying to create, like, a straw man and make it, like, easy to argue against.
The reality is that here's what happens whenever you do a job like what's happened with BFA and Shadowlands. In any other industry, you'd be out of a job.
Okay, so I guess I jumped the gun a little bit, but yeah, Asmongold pretty much just said what I thought he would say is, you know, any industry or any other situation, you would have already lost your job. So makes sense. That's what he's claiming. He's not saying like these individuals themselves should lose their job. He's saying that somebody or this whole team in general is incompetent and they would have lost their job in most cases, and they need to be replaced.
Like, that's the truth. Like, you would, like, whenever you lose money on an entertainment product over COVID, like during COVID, you'd be out of a job. And like, I mean, really, like, imagine having bad systems like this for 2 years, 4 years. It's crazy.
Well, that is another thing, right? Because we saw when Blizzard just showed with the earnings call that just came out from Blizzard, we saw that they are severely down on monthly active users, right? And for something that like that to happen over the span of COVID, where more people are at home, more people are spending time on the internet, more people are playing games, when the industry as a whole has seen a massive growth over the pandemic, and you have this company who seems to be the one who has lost users. I mean, there's a problem, right? It can't be the industry, and so it must be the company. And in the company, if we look at what people are complaining about, it's the systems in the game. Most people that play the game, at least in my experience, this is from my point of view, from the people I've played with, what I've seen on social media, is they don't like the lore and they don't like the systems of the game. Like the art design is fine, the level, like the dungeon design, the encounter design is fine, the dungeon design is fine. It's the systems and the lore that seems to draw the most attention when it comes to things to criticize Blizzard about. Specifically borrowed power systems, or I think Asmongold mentioned earlier in this video, things like shards of domination. It's these like half-baked systems that feel like they're incomplete, or like they were only put in the game to kind of satisfy a short-term end, you know? That is where the problem seems to lie within World of Warcraft.
At a certain point, like, I'm not saying, like...
And to be clear, it's not just World of Warcraft either. They've lost users across all their games. And, you know, so that could be endemic of the company. Not just, like, their WoW team has had some bad ideas for the past couple years. It seems like the company as a whole is suffering from some kind of inability to, I don't know, innovate or listen to feedback. Is probably what it is. It's mostly listening to feedback, I think, is the problem. So it puts the company at a very weird position, because if you look at like Activision, who's the main part of like Activision Blizzard, they are not losing players for their games like Call of Duty. I guess they're one game of Call of Duty. You know, it's like they seem to have figured it out. They listen, where the community in WoW tells the developers and the designers, hey, we want this, and then they kind of argue against that and then don't implement it for a long time, and then eventually end up caving and implementing it. But it's like already too late. You've already made your players suffer for a long time, and now they're mad about it.
Maybe they shouldn't get fired, but something needs to fucking happen. Like, something drastic needs to fucking happen.
Yeah, so maybe they don't need to be fired. I mean, like, I don't know about advocating for individuals to lose their jobs, but when the team as a whole seems to be failing, that is the time to like possibly move people around or broaden the roles, or maybe get more people on the system design team so there's more ideas floating around. But really, I think it just comes down to a feedback problem. Maybe these people have really good ideas, and like I think Torghast as like a game mode was interesting. I just think tying it to player power and like requiring everybody to run it a specific number of times a week and like for the whole expansion was where the problem came from. And even when people complain, they failed to fix that. So like they have good ideas. It's just that the way that they implement those systems in the game and then require them is the problem. So maybe it's not that these people need to be fired, but there needs to be like a culture shift within Blizzard as a company where they start listening to the player feedback. Because in my opinion, that's where the problems come from.
Reality is that like whenever this is why the community is like this, okay? It's because they're not listening. They're not
okay. Hey, what'd I fucking say?
Listening. They're not saying, okay, well, now people keep saying that they don't want this type of system. We're going to stop putting it in the game. No, they just continue doing it.
Yeah.
That's
exactly
what the issue is.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is so obvious with Torghast. Like when Ian was like, hey, we know that Torghast is a problem for a lot of people, but we're not going to fix it for 9.1. It's like, dude, that's probably the number one problem people have with the game as it stands. That is the number one problem. You need to fix that. I don't care if you add in shards of domination. If you had just left the items like normal, not made us re-roll our legendaries and not made us do Torghast, it's like those are the things that you need to listen to the community about. And then when the community said, when the community found out that we would have to remake our legendaries for 9.1, why didn't you just make it easy to do? Why did you make it hard for everyone to do? Like, man, it just seems like, I don't know. It's so weird how they'll fix problems that harm their monetization, like people leveling too fast through the time walking, and they'll fix that right quick, but they won't fix things that people actually hate about the game. I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if it's like a thing where they believe that they're right and everyone else is wrong. Like, I have no idea what the problem is here.
Yeah, they keep doing it. If they had just listened to what the players want, then that's all it would take. They're cornered and react accordingly to Twitter. What do you expect? I expected in the past 5 years for them to improve the systems and...
Well, let's think about that. So, we all fucking know how I feel about Twitch chat, especially Asmongold's chat, who seems to have the fucking most two-head takes of all time for every fucking topic imaginable. But let's think about that. They're cornered on Twitter. Are you actually cornered on Twitter if people are just adding you? It's not like the press out in public ran up to you with a microphone and put you, like, made you, like, retreat into your car. Like, these people are effectively voices of the company, whether they want to be or not on Twitter, when they are saying things that are indicative of the culture that exists within Blizzard. Like, here, let's see. If you fired all systems designers in our game specifically, you wouldn't get any more items ever. So, like, this guy thinks that we're advocating for this abolition of the systems designers, or that him and his team are the only people in the world who could come up with systems for the game. What are you talking about, man? Like, he just, like, it's like is this to me shows how they view the community's criticisms. It's like they think that they're operating on like fucking 200 IQ, and they're like, nah, dude, trust me, we know exactly how everything works within the game, like, perfectly, and so we're not going to change anything because we know we're right. And then everyone else is like, okay, well, we fucking hate it, so we're gonna stop playing, and maybe you guys should look at your systems because that's why we're not playing anymore. And he's like, yeah, look at, if we got rid of the systems team, then you wouldn't have any more items. It's like, dude, like, this is kind of the mentality that it seems like most of the teams at Blizzard have.
Listen to the player base rather than make people beta test a bad system for an entire expansion. They're cornered on Twitter. They haven't been cornered for 5 years. Nothing's happened.
Oh yeah, that mean I completely lost track of my initial point of being cornered on Twitter too. You're not being cornered on Twitter, dude. Like, if people at you because there's a problem with the game, like, that's probably bad, but you don't really have to respond to every single person that ats you. And two, you could come with like a tempered response, or like you could literally have like a copy paste response you have towards anyone, like hey, we hear you as a team, please direct questions to, and then like name like the official World of Warcraft Twitter, or like a website where people can post their ideas instead. Like, you don't have to just come out guns blazing like, you cornered me on Twitter, now I'm gonna fucking roast you, you know? It's like, you don't have to do that.
Happened. Literally nothing's happened. Like, like, you're having people quitting the game in thousands. Like, people are like, it's more popular to quit WoW than play WoW.
True.
It's obvious. Everybody is talking about it. You're having the massive like community figures. Like, I'm not even talking about myself, right? There are plenty of people who are quitting the game. And it's happening. There's like a new one every single day. This is not normal. It's just not at all.
Like, can anyone remember a time where people just kind of left a game en masse? Because I think usually what happens is a game usually just slowly dies out. Like, even other like MMOs or other Blizzard games, like if you think about StarCraft 2, I don't want to say it's completely a dead game because there's definitely still a small community for it, but it used to be massive, and then it just slowly, as League of Legends kind of took it, it was like a balance. It was like, here's StarCraft 2, here's League of Legends, and then it slowly kind of just like ticked like this as far as the esport community goes, at least, and it seems to be the same for Twitch viewership. And then like even other MMOs, like if you look at older MMOs like EverQuest, it seems like World of Warcraft came up and EverQuest was here, and then it slowly just kind of took over, you know? It's not like it just like happens immediately, like it is with World of Warcraft, where everybody seems to just be like completely distancing themselves from the game. Like, I can't remember the last time that even happened. Like, the closest thing I can think of is Fortnite, where it kind of like went all the way up. It went up super fast, and then it seemed to drop pretty quickly. But even Fortnite is still super popular now, so it's not even like they lost that many players. It's like they lost like they just lost like the like broader appeal that they once had. But like it's like even less of a good example, I guess. So I don't know. Maybe you guys can put something in the comments about the last time you remember this happening in a game, because I can't remember. It's just is like a pretty unique situation.
I don't know. Like, the way I look at it is that I can spend all day talking about this and complaining about this, and we can have endless conversations about how WoW is bad, right? And I think that we do that. We do that all the time. But the truth is that these conversations fall on deaf ears.
Well, and that's like another thing is like you wouldn't necessarily just complain about a game to complain about it, right? Like, I mean, maybe that's the case right now because of how popular it is to hate the game. But I feel like most people's like complaints, at least initially, were just because they didn't like something and they wanted that to be heard by the game developers. So like, you know, people like in the game even will complain about things like, if there's something in the game you don't like, you would complain about it. If something is in the game that you like, here's the truth about things. When there's something that is working super well, usually people won't notice it, right? Like if the game is running at like perfect frames and there's no lag, people won't say anything about the game. They'll just be like, oh, it's working as intended. But as soon as it starts to lag, people start to complain, because there's kind of like an expected level of operation for things, and that goes true for systems as well. If the system is working well, people aren't going to say anything about it, or they're less likely to compliment it. But as soon as something goes wrong, you're going to say something about it. That's just how people work. That's just like true for anything. If you go to like McDonald's and you get a burger and you like it, you're not going to tweet about how good it is. But if you go to McDonald's and you get a burger and it has like hair in it, you're going to tweet about it because that's disgusting and you're mad. That's how people work. I'm sorry that as like a designer or as somebody who has to like hear these complaints, it kind of feels like everyone just shits on you and no one ever compliments you. But I promise, if things are silent or you're not hearing complaints about something, that means it's working well. If you're hearing complaints about things, especially a lot, that means it's horrible. Like, those are the things that you need to focus your attention on. So that is kind of where I think that these people kind of miss the mark. Like, maybe they don't feel appreciated enough, and that's the problem. I don't fucking know.
They fall on deaf ears because the community, the people that run the game don't care. And not only do they not care, they actively dislike the people that are giving the suggestions based off of arbitrary criteria that oftentimes has nothing to do with the game. Oh, I don't like this person because of a political statement that they made. What the fuck does that
We went over that case with Asmongold previously where the guy called him an asshole.
have to do with the game? What do you,
It wasn't even political either.
What's wrong? Like, are you stupid? Like, obviously, I genuinely think, I really, really do mean this, okay? I'm not joking around, I'm not playing around or anything. I genuinely think that they're incompetent. I think they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree. That seems to be the problem, right? The problem seems to be that they have the resources to make everything that they need to. Well, let me retract that. Maybe they don't have the manpower, since it seems like the company has been laying off a ton of people. So maybe the manpower is a little bit down, but still, it seems like they should be able to implement something that works. And I'm going to go back to the example with Torghast again. Is Torghast by itself as a standalone thing could have been fun if they had just put cosmetics in there. They could have even still allowed you to get Soul Ash and Soul Cinders from there. If they had just made the sources for those things in different areas, I think it would have been fine. I don't think people would have hated the system. But they have the like systems in place to make the game good. It's just that they don't act on the things that they need to, especially when the community complains. They seem to just it puts them in like a stasis where they just like they have to do the opposite of what the community wants for some reason. It's kind of weird.
That's the truth. I really think that. I don't think that they're doing it on purpose because they're evil or something like that.
No,
I
no,
think
of course
that they
not.
just have no fucking idea what they're doing. And it's complacency. I think that in many times it is complacency because they think that there's never anything bad that's gonna happen if they do a bad job for years. And it just sucks, man. The thing is, like, here's really the difference. I can see somebody being defensive whenever they're being criticized. But the difference is that, like, let's say I'm being criticized a lot for something. Well, I have a position there where I'm either going to decide, do I want to continue doing this thing, or do I want to listen to what people are saying and do it differently?
Okay, I think that's actually really important because I might need to amend what I said earlier about like getting a bunch of complaints about something. So like if you get like a small amount of complaints about something, that doesn't necessarily mean that that system or item or whatever is bad, okay? It's when you start getting a lot of complaints, especially complaints that are very specific about what the problem is. So, for example, if I was going to complain about the PvP system in WoW and say that it is heavily promoted or it heavily encourages boosting because it's very easy for a high-level player to get up to 2,500, max out their gear, and then go lower their rating and just carry people to higher ratings for money, and it's lucrative. I'm giving you examples of how that works and how it's facilitated within the game due to WoW tokens, or the fact that Blizzard does not seem to crack down on real money trading based on the number of posts seen in the group finder for real money trading, okay? That is a very specific complaint. It follows logically, and you can see it play out in real time in the game. Go do a PvP game. I promise you, if you inspect the people you're playing against, or you just look at their health, most of the time it'll be a lot higher than what you would expect of someone with similar gear to you. So that complaint is a lot different than somebody just saying, "Oh, this dungeon sucks." Like those two complaints are not equal. Okay? On top of that, if like it's just a couple people saying this dungeon sucks, like maybe to them there's something bad about it, but to the broad population of the game, it's fine. But if you have a ton of people even inarticulately saying this dungeon sucks, maybe you should look at that dungeon. That's all I'm saying. It's like they have to do like kind of a calculus in their head, like the quality of the complaint and the specificity of it and the volume of complaints about a specific interaction in the game. Those are the two things that these designers need to weigh in their head, and it seems like they don't give a fuck about either of those things, and they'll just go directly attack the person. That's what it seems like.
And there have been times, I really believe this, where I have listened to criticism and thought to myself, you know what, this is kind of true. And there are cases where this happens, but the WoW devs, there are no cases with this. They just continue like ramming their shit down people's throats, and people are tired of it, man. They're just fucking tired of it, and that's why everybody's...
There's a long time ago, or maybe not that long ago, like a couple weeks to a month or so ago, where Asmongold drew something on the screen, and it was like a bar, and it was like a health bar kind of, and it was like, this is the respect people have for Blizzard as a company. And then it's like there's certain things that kind of just wore down on that respect. And like the first thing was like Warlords of Draenor content drought. And then the next thing was like, I don't remember exactly what it was. It's like the Blitzchung incident. And then it's the lawsuit. And then it's like the Shadowlands like problems. And then at this point, like they're almost out of respect. And then like the more respect you lose, the more like the more exponential this exodus and this kind of vitriol becomes. And I think that's actually true. I think like they spent a long time building up that respect within the gaming community. And then within like, I don't know, less than a decade, it kind of seems like they've just like gone through all of that respect that they once built up. And at this point, it's like, if you had made this mistake 5-10 years ago, people would have forgiven you and they wouldn't have like left en masse like they did now. But because of all of those other things that have happened, people no longer can kind of put off this hatred that they have for the way that they're treated within the game.
Leaving. We get early access systems every expansion. Yeah, exactly. We get early access systems, and we have to be the ones that make them.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the changes that these systems go through are changes that are suggested by the players. Why are the devs even there to begin with? Why don't we just do everything through a straw poll? Because apparently that's the way that they make decisions anyway.
And while I don't know if that's necessarily the best decision for an evolving game like modern World of Warcraft, that could definitely work for an older game. Like if we look at like WoW Classic, for example, because if you think about how the only other game I can think of that's done this is RuneScape, old school RuneScape. And at least as far as I can tell and the community is concerned, that method has been widely successful within not just like the perception of the company, but within keeping people engaged in the game. So there is probably a place for this kind of approach, at least somewhere within WoW. It would probably be best to be done within like Classic, but there is a place for it, I think.
Like oftentimes, like what ends up happening at the end of the expansion is the thing that the players wanted at the beginning of the expansion.
Yeah, exactly.
Like why is this even like why don't we just cut out the middleman and just fucking do everything with a straw poll if that's the way we're gonna make the game? It's crazy. Not all of them. No, I know there's a lot of good devs at Blizzard. I absolutely know that. I know that, and that everybody knows that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people there who do a great job, and they're very good at what they're doing. But
okay, yeah, but like there's only so much that a single good developer can do within a specific context, okay? So it might be true that there are a lot of good devs, but it could be that the amount of work that those good devs have to do to make up for the deficiencies of either the lack of employees or the bad devs at the company is just too much. Like they can't do everything for the game. You would need either a bigger team or a larger, like, or more competent devs within the company right now. So while it's true that there are, of course, great devs at the company, people who truly love the game, who only want the best for the game and do amazing work, it seems like there's either not enough of them or they're outweighed, like their good contributions are just outweighed by bad contributions from other people. That's how it seems from the outside.
But there are some people that have like this general oversight into the game, right? Like systems and things like this that just poison the entire game. And I think
yeah, so that's like what he's talking about is like there might be like developers, like people who actually code that are really good at their job and they do the best they can, but then the people above them, the designers, have bad ideas, and then they're forced to implement these things. They force the developers to implement these bad ideas, and then it creates a bad game. And then the community is outraged against all of the employees when really it was just the designer who had that bad idea. And then the people below him were like, I mean, we have to do what he says, where he's our boss. Like that could be how it works too. Like the designers above the actual programmers just have bad ideas, and then the programmers, they might think it's a bad idea and they might even voice their concerns, but in the end they're forced to implement it because that's what the person above them told them to do.
I think that's what the core problem is, more so than anything. Why players end up in alpha beta testing systems for 1.5 years is to enjoy the finished product for a few months. Exactly, man. They were on thin ice and you nicked it by going to Final Fantasy 14. I want to be honest, okay? Like, yeah, obviously, me playing Final Fantasy 14 does look bad for WoW because of the optics of it. Because, like, you know, WoW is a lot lower on the Twitch, whatever you want to call it, like the Twitch directory. And overall, there's more people that play because there's people that, like, you know, I host, like Rich, etc. And so he's going to try it. Like, S-Fan's going to try the game. Other people are going to try the game too. And so it does create a cascading effect. Absolutely. Yeah, sure. But I am just one person. As much as you think that I have a big ego, let me make you very clear that I do not think this has anything to do with me.
Okay, let me think about it. So, while I agree that it is not the majority part Asmongold who has started this kind of crusade, I guess for a better word, against Blizzard, that doesn't mean that he had no effect on it. right? Like when your most prominent creator and streamer of your game stops playing the game. Maybe he didn't quit, he just hasn't played it in a long time. Stops playing the game and starts playing other games, especially a direct competitor, like a lot, and is loving it and is making a lot of videos about it and just keeps playing it off stream and not playing your game off stream, the perception kind of cascades downwards. Because like he said, he has like Rich Campbell and S-Fan who begin to play it. And then you have like other like people in the community. Like I know that Limit Maximum, the guild leader for Complexity Limit, said that they're going to start trying to do some like fun thing in Final Fantasy. I don't think Max is ever going to quit playing WoW, but he's still making some content for Final Fantasy now. You have people like Stoops, who's now moving over to Final Fantasy. You have Nagira, who's moving over to Final Fantasy, or not moving over, but she's trying it out. And I think that it does kind of cascade downward, where if Asmongold had never done that, like he had never decided to try Final Fantasy, I do see a world where these videos of ex-WoW players or current WoW players taking a break, trying Final Fantasy 14, I see a world where those videos aren't popular and nobody cares. But I think that Asmongold kind of set the trend and set the perception for all of these content creators. So to say that he had no part, I think is foolish. But to say that he had like the biggest part, I think is equally foolish, because in the end of the day, I think it comes down to the systems in the game and how Blizzard has treated its community, and then obviously a massive blow came during that lawsuit.
Played other games before, and nobody went over and played that game. You can get all the exposure in.
That's true, but I don't remember any time that he has gone over to a game as fervently as he has for Final Fantasy. So, and I don't remember another time that he went over to another game and just hasn't played World of Warcraft in a considerable amount of time.
In the world, you can buy every streamer to play your game. You can get every streamer to play your fucking game. And if your game sucks, it's going to go right into the fucking toilet.
Okay, that's 100% true. But here's the thing, is if there's two equally good games, in this case, maybe they're not equally good, but for the sake of this argument, let's say you have two equally good games, but then the community kind of starts edging towards one of those things. As soon as that becomes the meta for the community to do that game, whatever the game that got more streamers into it or more like YouTubers into it is going to have the larger player base or the larger initial thrust, because people want to do what's popular. So, and Asmongold being the most popular WoW streamer, once he kind of shifted most of his content, at least in the past few weeks, over to Final Fantasy, that shift kind of was seen throughout the WoW content creator community.
The moment that they turn off their stream, because nobody cares about the game. And that's why it didn't matter if I played Final Fantasy or not, because if I played Final Fantasy and people thought it sucked, nobody would have watched the stream, and it would have been shitty. I'd have to play it off stream or something like that, because I wouldn't want to just play a game that everybody fucking hates on my stream all the time, right? Like, that's just fucking, it's a bad vibe. And so anyway, it worked because people liked it. So it's this symbiotic relationship. You know, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the streamer promote it, or did the viewers like it so the streamer promoted it? You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm really trying to get at, okay, guys? My thoughts. What's this here? Saying Asmongold is the only reason why the WoW community is toxic is complete bullshit. I was part of the German community, and as a woman, it was not nice. Everyone knows it's toxic. I close that game so often, crying my eyes out because the community's treating me like shit. Stop blaming one single person and start working on the roots. Everyone who ever played WoW knows how toxic the community is. I was called a bitch almost every day by strangers. To be fair, I do that too. But I don't do it just because it's a girl. Let's see here. Dudes talked about my boobs and generally about my body without even knowing what I look like. Running random mythic keys could be hell. Even if you did well, the moment someone made a mistake, all hell broke loose. And I tried to step in for myself, but no one else cares. Fix your fucking game. Stop blaming people for a bigger problem. So here...
Okay, I mean... Do you have any idea how fucking cringe it is for you to be in a fucking key with, like, a woman and then talking about her boobs or calling her a bitch because she's a girl? Like, don't... That is so fucking cringe. Don't ever do that, bro. Like, I'm dying from, like, the secondhand story of this shit, dude. Please, if you've ever done that or even consider doing that, just, like, think for, like, half a second, bro. That's just cringe as fuck.
Here's really what the problem is. The problem is Blizzard has no moderation with the game. People just run fucking wild in the game. They make 10 different characters. They are super...
Yeah, think about how quickly the people who are harassing Asmongold when he started playing Final Fantasy XIV, think about how quickly those people got banned. And then in WoW, you harass somebody, they report you, and then nothing happens. And if something does happen, it takes like over a week. It's fucking crazy.
Abusive and harassing at people, and Blizzard doesn't ban them. That's the issue. That is the core issue, is that people do annoying and bad shit, and Blizzard doesn't do anything to ban them or get rid of them. It's the same thing as Twitch. Yeah, exactly. And this is what happens, though. It's like, if you allow a community to happen like that, like, for example, here, I'll give you a really good example. With any sort of a very, like, let's say, quote, toxic community on Twitch, what happens whenever communities don't ban people that are being abusive and being, like, really vitriolic and angry? Like, what happens? Because I can tell you what happens from my experience is those communities just get worse and worse and worse. It never gets better. It's never like, oh, well, they're just speaking their mind. It always gets worse. And again, this...
Yeah, it's kind of like any time you open up a community and it's supposed to be like complete freedom of speech, like nobody gets banned for what they say and stuff like that, and then it just gets overrun by like Nazis and racists. Like, that's kind of what happens if there's no moderation at all within the community. It gets overrun with like the worst people because everyone else is just going to go somewhere where it is moderated. They don't want to be part of that. It's just annoying. And then the only people you're left with are those like really crazy people who want to say like weird shit.
What does this all stem from? This all stems from Blizzard wanting to save money. That's all it is. It's not because they want people to get harassed. Blizzard doesn't want people to get harassed at all. They're just doing it because it's easier to do that than actually fix the game and spend money. Streamers get bans on chat for spamming N-words, but Twitch won't block N-word for being used on a platform. It is, though. Yeah, N-word is blocked on Twitch. It's globally blocked with the hard R it is. And other than that, yeah, you're right. And so this is what happens, right? Is like if you, and there are streamers that do this, and ironically, it's for the same reason. There are streamers that allow a toxic community to become bigger and bigger part of their audience. And why does that happen? It's because those people are viewers. Those people are a number. And if you get more viewers, that means that you can make more money, you have more influence, and just in general, you are more, you're more important, right? And anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of streamers that don't ban that kind of stuff and don't do that kind of stuff because they want the viewers. And the ironic thing about this is that this is the same thing that happens with Blizzard, is that they're saving money by not actually hiring GMs and banning people appropriately. And because of that, what happens is that the community just gets worse and worse and worse. And this is the truth. And it's happened for a long fucking time.
All right. Well, there was another Asmongold vs. Blizzard video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like and subscribe, leave a comment. I think any last thoughts I have about this are just, one, don't attack individual people within the company, within the community, and don't be a weirdo on the internet and make fun of someone just because they're a woman. In fact, probably best to not make fun of anyone that you don't really know that well at all. But overall, I mean, Asmongold's pretty base, so yeah, I hope you all have a great day. Thanks for watching, and I'll be posting another video probably tomorrow. Peace.